Yo, it's Mac from the Everyday Nobody's podcast. I know you see the title, so let's get straight to it.
Everybody hates Chris.
Hurricane Chris is going through something. Initially, I felt like, man, anytime you ever see him, he's on his phone, on IG Live, going off about something. But now, looking back at it, like, I actually wish him the best. I hope everything works out for him because he has been through a lot. And what he's been through may have something to do with all his brash behavior. My initial thought was also to just call him a bitter rapper, but after seeing him on Vlad recently, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on him. He answered a lot of questions kind of pertaining to his last few rants, and you kind of get to get in the mind of Hurricane Chris. But before we get to that, let me ask you, do you think Hurricane Chris is just some old bitter rapper, or is there more to the story? Let's go back about a month ago. 50 Cent is hosting his Humor and Harmony Festival in Shreveport, Louisiana. He also told the world about his plans to open a film studio in Shreveport, Louisiana. I guess the land was cheap, it was a good bargain. By the end of that weekend for the Humor and Harmony Festival, it went off without a hitch. Nobody got robbed, or worse, nobody was, assassinated, so everything went fine. Everybody seemed happy with that result, except for Hurricane Chris.
How the fuck you supposed to be a nigga that's a part of hip-hop? You throw a motherfucking concert in Louisiana and don't book no Louisiana legends and put no bankroll in no Louisiana legends pocket, but you pay the police $500,000. What type of bitch ass shit is that? Nigga, you ain't fucking with my city, nigga. You taking advantage of my city, nigga, cause shit cheap and shit costs way less than it costs where you from. And y'all stupid, slow motherfuckers so crazy that y'all gonna let this nigga come down here and not show no love to Louisiana. This nigga ain't booked no Louisiana artist. This nigga ain't booked Big Papa. This nigga ain't booked B Will. This nigga ain't booked Hurricane. That nigga didn't even go to Baton Rouge and get no boosies or no webbies. Like, nigga didn't fuck with us. Nigga came to take advantage of us. Shreveport had cheap ass land. He came and bought that shit, and a nigga don't give a fuck about fucking with us. And he just showed you that by paying the police $500,000 when we got young niggas out here starving, when we got young niggas out here killing each other. That fucking money.
Chris would go live going off on 50 Cent because he felt like 50 Cent should have put money into the community. Instead, he spent $500K on police officers. He didn't put any big names from the city on the stage. He didn't look out for basically the underground, so he had a problem with that. The only issue with that rant is there were people from Louisiana on that stage, Fredo Bang being one of them. And the fact that the event went well, he had all these famous people, you're talking about billions of dollars worth of people. They went through the whole weekend without a hitch. Nobody got robbed. That means spending $500K on security turned out fine, whether it was the police or not. Because let's be honest, if Shreveport is how people make it seem, you have millions of dollars around people's necks. They're pulling up in nice cars, blase, blase. They're worth a large net worth. The wolves going to be out. They're going to see all these famous people and they're going to try to stick them up. Let's be honest. So yeah, you should spend $500K on police. I don't even see why that's an issue. The only person who was remotely close to seeing some criminal activity was Wallow. And he would explain that he was in his Uber and he felt like they was trying to set him up.
The life of Wallow, Pete. I'm down to Reedsport, right? I get an Uber, right? So I get the Uber, right? The car ain't right. It's broke down. Now look, you see where I'm at. I'm walking inside the airport. I had to get up out of the car. I had to jump up out of the car. So main man, like, he wants some stuff like, oh, my time as he's swerving on the road all this out of nowhere. Now I'm on game. I'm from Philadelphia, North Philly that is. Grew up in the 80s. He's swerving and all this, but I see that it's something ain't adding up. Oh man, I gotta pull over. Ho, bro, we not pulling over on no road like that. So I get him to keep going. I'm like, yo, keep going. Now look. I'm walking into the airport. I'm literally walking because I jump is out. Right, as soon as we get next to an exit, next to a gas station, he told me on my time, I got to we just gonna wait here. No, we not waiting here, brother. As soon as he click, jump out. Look, I'm walking into the airport. The story of my life, man. I said, Nizal, man. Come on, man. Uber driver. I'm like, yo, who you think I am? No, we got to pull over. We not pulling over nowhere, Jim. You ain't calling your homies up. Come get Nizal. I was ready to be on a platter, baby. And listen, and they was serving me with sides. The way this thing was like, I peeped the whole, I said, oh, you trying to put me on a platter and serve me with sides?
So Hurricane Chris would go on Vlad TV to kind of explain his side of the story. And some of it actually made a little bit of sense. Basically, he felt like, one, if you're in our city, you should support our city's artists.
What I was saying in the video was, I was actually speaking of artists from Shreveport. So, say for instance, in the Bay or in Dallas, you got artists that's popping, like really popping in certain markets. You understand what I'm saying? We accepted them in the city as one of us. So when we accept you in the city as one of us, and when you saying, this is my city, I'm looking for you to tap into the city and see some of these artists that's been pushing themselves for a long time, not me. I want you to see what the city got to offer artists and music-wise. So when you book a big event like this, and you saying it's a Shreveport festival, you can have some of the Shreveport legends to be a part of it.
I understand where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree. I feel like hip hop needs to get out of this regional thing where if I'm spending my money and I'm making money in a certain community, I have to include everybody. That's like a lower form of extortion. I don't agree with that. I don't think you are owed something because I'm doing business in your town. I don't think they're going to press Taylor Swift if she goes to the town or goes to a city, and they're not going to tell her who she should hire as security. They're not going to tell her who should be her opening act. But for some reason in this culture, you got to explain yourself and you got to reach out and be damn near extorted for you to be able to perform there. Even though the fact that a big performer is coming there is bringing money to that city. It may not be to where the street people want it to go to. It may not be funneled in that avenue, but it's still bringing attention and money to that community. So we got to get out of that. What makes it even worse is Hurricane Chris would go on to say that his cousin was working security for the venue also. So either 50 Cent is not bringing money to the community or he is. Like, I don't get what his malfunction was.
I know it was spectacular. It could have possibly been one of the biggest events. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
And with that came a lot of employment, both directly.
Yeah, I got cousins that did security for the event.
Do security.
Then you get into what I think the real issue is. One, I feel like he wanted to perform and he wasn't looked out for by 50 Cent, so he probably had an issue with that. And the other part is, I guess when 50 Cent was doing his promo, he was saying that this isn't Ratchet City no more.
Community. But it was a problem way before all of this. I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning. This started when he first came to Shreveport and he started saying, it's no more ratchet in my city. Shreveport been called Ratchet City since way back in the Gap, the early 2000s. When you go to the Bay, they call it the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Chicago, they call it Windy City. When you go to Dallas, they call it Funky Town, Texas. When you go to New York, they call it the Big Apple. We always call Shreveport Ratchet City, and for him to come and say, no more ratchet in my city, I took that as a little disrespectful, and I took that as him not tapping into the culture to actually understand what this means. This is our music. This is something we actually created that made it all over the world. So don't just come and bash it like it's something bad. If that shit had built up, you gotta think, I'm getting up and I'm watching what somebody posting on the news, 50 Cent counsels Ratchet City. Well, the first name of my first album was called Ratchet. My partners who dead named Ratchet Life. Like, and was one of the biggest artists in Shreveport before he died. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is Ratchet City. It's been Ratchet City. It's a lot of artists with this connected to their name.
Basically, he would explain that he was upset that 50 Cent, who's from New York, came in, started buying up land, throws an event there, and then he gets on the radio and says there's no more Ratchet City. Ratchet City is what Shreveport is known for. Hurricane Chris was one of the main people pushing Ratchet to the global level when he first came out. So he feels like, how dare you come to my city and denounce something that we created, especially you being from a whole nother state. So I kind of get that. When in Rome, do as Romans do. You don't want to come in and just start disrespecting people's culture. That's not 50 Cent's place. So I do get where he's coming from with that. As far as the other stuff, I don't agree with Hurricane Chris at all. If it's my money and I choose to do business in your city, it is what it is. Now I'll let you decide. Was 50 Cent wrong, or is Hurricane Chris just a little bitter? Let's continue. In this same Vlad TV interview, Hurricane Chris has some harsh words for Joe Budden also.
Situation,
Yeah,
right?
speaking on another nigga business. The fuck you speaking on me for, Joe? You should have called me up there and had a conversation about it.
Did you guys ever work it out?
Hell nah, I don't know what the fuck Joe talking some dumb bum ass, oh, and he really hasn't been relevant since this. Oh, what the fuck you hating for, bro? With all this negative ass shit that you got to say about every fucking body. Nigga, don't nobody want to hear that shit. Don't nobody want to hear no negative ass Joe Button. I don't want to hear that shit. I hate a down ass nigga, depressed acting ass nigga, bro. What the fuck is wrong with most of these niggas? That's the way they make themselves feel confident or something? By trying to drag the whole vibe with all these low ass vibrations, bro. Fuck all that shit. My grandma told me if you ain't got nothing good to say, just shut the fuck up. Unless you got a real problem with somebody.
Well, his song Pump It Up just went gold after 20
Just
years.
went gold.
You know, and people give a hard time over that, but you know, most artists
You know how many
have
times
songs that
A-Baby is
never go
platinum?
gold.
You know how many times A-Baby went platinum?
How many times?
Multiple.
Multiple.
That motherfucker is platinum.
Okay.
Probably 3.
Congrats.
This all stems from the viral TikTok song My Bae, which samples Hurricane Chris's A Bay Bay over the Tony 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 anniversary melody. You remember that dance where all the kids were doing it and it almost looked like they were floating? Meanwhile, you're in the kitchen about to tear your MCL trying to do it? Yeah, it was that dance. The creator of the mashup was Kia Ben, and I guess once it went viral, Hurricane Chris was like, hey, I'd like to get on it. So he reached out to Kia Ben to get on the remix. He was met with stipulations and disrespect.
She made it. When she made it, some kind of way me and her ended up on the phone. And I was like, that shit hard. I'm finna make an actual song. Now, number one, nobody came to me before they put it out. It was already super viral. Sampled my shit and made it go super viral. Nobody came to me and said, hey, we're gonna use this. We wanna make sure we compensate you. Number two, she posted and don't even mention me. She started mentioning everybody that she sampled except me. Number three, when we end up getting on the phone and I say, I'm finna make a bang out of this shit, she say, well, make sure you let me hear. I want to make sure it's up to par. I'm like, nigga, you sample my motherfucking shit. I got the rights to this. The fuck is you talking about? After that, I just dropped that bitch.
Kia Ben wanted to hear it before he could put it out, and he wanted her to fly out her and her friends to shoot the video. Hurricane Chris was offended, as he should be, so he just shot the video on his own. Then she would speak on it and have the nerve to have an attitude with him because he didn't reach out to her and it wasn't to her liking, even though he's the originator of the song. Hurricane Chris is like, who is she talking to? This is my art that you stole and put over a different beat. So how are you going to have the nerve to be mad at me?
I think that's a fair
So my
ask.
thing is,
I think that's a fair ask.
My thing is, why you didn't let me know you was sampling my shit so I could have said,
No, I
let
get
me
that
know
part.
it ain't, so I
get
can
that
know it
part.
ain't trash.
Yeah, I
You
get that part.
She telling me, let me hear everything you doing and approve of it so I can make sure it ain't trash. Why you didn't let me hear you sampling my shit so I could have made sure this wasn't trash?
Fair
You
enough.
playing with my shit.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about? I come in my room to play with my toys and you give me some fucking rules? Make sure you don't break this. This is my fucking shit. You just picked it up to play with it.
Okay.
Chris is looking at it like, I could have made sure this song didn't even clear and you would have never had any success or any fame behind it. So the fact that you are coming at me like this, you got some nerve. So this is where Joe Budden would come in. He's on his podcast and he kind of weighs in on the situation. He basically called Hurricane Chris a clout chaser because he felt like Hurricane Chris should not have used somebody else's moment to capitalize and to basically push his dead career forward because Hurricane Chris had been dormant for like 10 plus years.
But it actually is Hurricane Chris's
That's a
song.
fact. That's a fact.
It's really his song. They both say whatever they want, but that is Hurricane Chris's song.
He could also be like, I'm not clearing it unless you let me put it out. You know
As a
what I mean?
songwriter, I understand that. So I opened up my iTunes store and typed in, and in the comments, they were all saying that's his song. So I opened up the iTunes store and I type in Hurricane Chris
Yeah.
to see if maybe he's been releasing music unbeknownst to me. I could not find any. That changed my entire stance on this as a songwriter. And if I did it, everybody out there would call me corny.
True.
So we're not going to move the goalposts.
True.
If a Jersey Club anthem came out doing Pump It Up, and I ain't rapped in however many years, and it's already a smash. And now I take my vocals that maybe I don't even own, but I did that song, and now I'm back with my song again, the internet would end me like you've never seen anyone end it.
Now, I do understand both sides, but if we're going to be honest, this is a classic case of sampling in hip hop and artistry. Sampling in hip hop has been a part of the culture since inception. Although sampling is normalized, there is a proper protocol to get something cleared. As a sampler, You reach out to the artist that you're planning to sample or their estate. You guys get together, you negotiate whether it's going to be free, percentage based, a flat rate, or a mixture of the two. Then the person who's being sampled will clear the sample. It's pretty simple. But let's be real, if you're a new artist, you're in your basement or you're recording in a little studio, you don't have access to these people who you might be sampling. So you don't even know that your song is going to go viral. You never know. So when it does happen, yeah, there's a chance that you might have done it wrong because you didn't have the tools and the access to these people to actually reach out and negotiate sampling and, splits and everything. And although that may be true, that is the price you pay. So you either do it the right way or you don't sample. You can interpolate, you can replay things. You don't have to sample somebody's stuff. So as much as I love sampling, I love how the samples sound in music, it's always free to be creative. So I don't feel sorry for you if you have to give up all your credits for it. And in Kia Ben's case, it doesn't help that you disrespected the person that you sampled. Like, to tell Hurricane Chris, oh, I want to hear it, make sure it's not whack or make sure it's to my liking. That's kind of disrespectful, especially when he's the one created it. And you're not even rapping over it. You just mashed up a beat and somebody else's vocals, which you've stolen both, because Tony was a thing probably before this Kia Ben person was born. And you meshed those together and you are upset that the originator wants a piece of it. Kind of wild, but whatever. Entitlement. Now, where Joe's coming from, he's like, well, I've been the artist who doesn't have access to people. So I'm speaking for the art. I'm not speaking for the business part of it. He feels like that has been a thing for too long where, a new artist is trying to come up. They finally hit their stride and then here comes somebody who just out businesses the person.
The people that arranged this and did this, put in the sweat equity to get it to take off, deserve to be paid from somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's young Chris. But I don't know if, we do Hurricane know that Hurricane Chris. We don't know what their monetization on TikTok side looks like for them or how that went about, but I think they just deserve some credit. Too many times, big music industry comes to eat little music industry.
For sure.
And I'm just sick of that. I've seen it in Afro beats. I've seen it with go. Anything that go get hot for a little bit, here y'all come. With the legal way to do it, so y'all monetize it properly and blow it up. And now the other person is just non-existent.
No, bigger.
I feel you. But you can just be original. So it is what it is. So now I'll let you decide. Is Chris just some bitter rapper? Or was there some validity in his anger? Let's continue. Now, before I get into this, I want to say I don't know Hurricane Chris personally, nor am I a therapist. So I can't really gauge his temperament on a daily basis. I don't know if this anger that you're seeing is who he is every day, or if it's just because he's going through something behind the scenes. But going back and watching these videos on Hurricane Chris led me to a year ago when he was on Vlad TV. And I was like, oh, how did I miss this? And after watching that old Vlad TV interview, now I'm starting to think maybe there's something to this. In 2023, Hurricane Chris was on Vlad TV, and he was on there because he was exonerated for second-degree murder. Even though he ends up winning on self-defense, that does not excuse what he had to go through because he was looking at 40 years. He was clearly innocent. There was video footage of his innocence. It was a clear example of how shameful and how corrupt the law can be when that institution is looking to hold a person back.
And it's not like I react instantly and use force instantly. I plead with him for over a minute to get your hands away from your pocket and step away from the vehicle, which witnesses testified to as well. A guy that was walking in the store and walking out of the store heard this. And so when he walked in, I was telling him to get away from the car. When he walked out, I was still commanding him to step away from the car and get his hands away from his pocket. Witnesses say he heard a man say, "I don't know what you got in your pocket. Get your hands away from your pocket." He continued to reach into his pocket, dug deeper while making threats and while I was commanding him not to go any further into his pocket. And that's when I had to use force and fear of my life, What happened was, it was a fucked up situation, Vlad, because when the police came, they were supposed to have enough sense to know. All we gotta do is run the video back and see what happened. I told them everything that happened. I stayed on the scene. I dialed 911. They still tried to find a way to use my words against me and arrest me, bro.
As the story goes, Hurricane Chris, he was at a gas station. He was visiting a person. He hops out the car. He starts talking to somebody he knows from a long time ago. He has a firearm on his waist. He also has a firearm in his car in an open carry state. As he's talking to his friend, there's a person that's trying to break into cars. Person tried to break into his car, in which there is a firearm on the passenger seat. So he was trying to stop the person from getting to that firearm. He draws down on the man. He screams, "Hey, step away from my vehicle." He even tells bystanders who are watching in the distance, he was like, "Hey, can somebody subdue this guy so it doesn't get out of hand?" The guy is threatening him. He's screaming at him. Hurricane Chris goes on to say, yeah, maybe he had some type of mental thing going on with him. And basically the guy wouldn't stop approaching Hurricane Chris, and then he reaches in his pocket for an object, and Hurricane Chris utilized the Second Amendment. Chris would end up calling the police. He didn't take off. He stayed there and waited, and he was still handcuffed and treated like a criminal. There was witnesses that vouched for him. There was footage. Everything was in line for him to beat this case, but he was still treated like a criminal.
But ultimately, a grand jury indicted you, and you made a statement, said that we still live in Jim Crow after that.
Exactly. It's crazy because, okay, check this out. He had a dangerous weapon that they found on him. The dangerous weapon that they found on him, that was never reported. Those facts was never put out. The grand jury never seen the dangerous weapon he had. The grand jury wasn't informed that he was illegally breaking into a car. They sat in front of the grand jury and played with our constitutional rights, thinking we was down in Louisiana and wasn't nothing gonna be done about it. These people tried to take every right that I have to stand up for myself. They knew exactly what he had, a dangerous weapon. It was not, the only way we found this was through EMS. We had to get when the EMS got on the stand, that's how we found out that they were the only people with records of what he actually had. They didn't even document this man with a dangerous weapon. So I'm trying to figure out who in the legal system decided to just wrongfully prosecute me with all these evidence laying on the table like this.
Okay.
I think it was election. Somebody was running for some type of election or something when I got arrested, and there was some politics involved. Bruh, it ain't no way they supposed to find that big stupid brick in his pocket. There go the deadly weapon. There you go on camera reaching for it. Self-defense. Close it. Why that didn't happen, bro?
Yeah. Well, the trial starts. The prosecutors called 9 witnesses to the stand, including the cop that, ultimately you turned yourself into, the guy that
He got
witnessed
fired.
everything. Oh, he got fired?
Yeah.
Good rinse.
2 of them
2 cops got fired.
that was arrested. 2 of my arresting
Right.
officers. The one who questioned me and the one who arrested me. They gone.
Luckily, Hurricane Chris had a solid lawyer. He had witnesses, and he said, I'm taking the stand myself because I'm not leaving this in nobody else's hand. It ended up working out for him. 2 of the officers were caught withholding information, so they ended up being fired. So that goes to show, they tried to give him a bad rap, and he ended up beating that case. But just think about that. That was in 2023. He went through that from 2020 to 2023, facing life, and then they tried to give him a 40-year plea deal. That was just a year ago. So although I'm not saying that he's innocent in the way he's acting, and I'm not saying he may not be a little bitter, because we have heard stories of how he was kind of messed over in the industry and how he's fallen out with a lot of people who he felt like they have fiduciary duties and were supposed to look out for him, and they didn't. Nonetheless, that was a year ago. So I just want y'all to think about it. Before we clown him, before we, kick his back in and talk about how ignorant he looks online, let me ask you, do you think Hurricane Chris is just some bitter has-been? Or maybe he could be going through something? You tell me what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'm out.